Whenever someone thinks about Ennoshita... Wait, what? Oh, alright, so you guys remember Ennoshita? No? Alright, so basically you remember when Karasuno, before fighting Aoba Josai for the second time, had to fight this team called Wakanan, and how Daichi got hurt and he had to be replaced? Okay, finally. So that's where Ennoshita was introduced to the story of Haikyuu for the first time, at least as a volleyball player. Before that, he was only a part of some comedy routines surrounding Tanaka and Nishinoya, but I think it's safe to say that this is where his true character was introduced to us. Unfortunately for him, he had big shoes to fill. Sawamura Daiichi, as Karasuno's captain, as mentioned by other people in the series, was the stability for Karasuno. His role as the captain, keeping all team members in check, as well as being a pillar in Karasuno's receive game alongside Nishinoya, was one of the things that flew incredibly under the radar until now. There is a whole discussion about just how much value Daiichi provides to Karasuno, but frankly, that is not the topic at hand. It's quite a lot. To add on top of that, this was the semi-finals, in a tournament where one loss means you go home. So Ennoshita's job is to integrate as a part of Karasuno's current working lineup and fill in the hole left by the absence of their captain, and make sure the team does not crumble under the absence of Daiichi. I think it's safe to say that this task was essentially impossible for Ennoshita to complete fully. Replacing someone that was such a core and integral part of the team was never actually going to be possible. The point of putting Ennoshita in was that he had the characteristics to rise to the challenge. He had enough interaction with everyone on the team to have gained their trust. He was the obvious choice. He didn't need to compensate for the loss of Daiichi 100%, he just needed to do whatever he could and it would most likely be enough. Even when the substitution first happens, it almost looks obvious to the Karasuno members that Ennoshita would be the one replacing Daiichi. And this is the most important quality to this entire arc. From the Karasuno members' point of view, Ennoshita was more than capable of the situation that he was put in, and nobody actually expected him to substitute and do what Daiichi does 100%. They just had the faith in Ennoshita's ability to maneuver through the challenge, the exact faith that Ennoshita lacked in himself. Ennoshita's story was one I think many people could relate with to some extent. While the old coach Ukai came back out of his retirement and started running training sessions for Karasuno, sometimes they would get a little intense. So intense that it forced Ennoshita to his breaking point. Even though he was diligent with training until now, he decided to run away this time. He spent his days away from training, in his air conditioning, away from the summer heat, not having to get scolded at, being able to relax. It's what we all feel like doing while working out, at the gym, or anything else in our life that we consider difficult. Human instinct to run away to comfort is the same in all of us. It's whether we succumb to it or not. Ennoshita was someone that succumbed to his desires and as a result paid a huge price for it in his own mind. After several days of resting, he realized what he had abandoned. He realized what he loved doing, and that was playing volleyball. He realized that while staying at home in his air conditioning was truly a feeling that he'd been missing, it felt empty. To him, there was nothing to be gained from sitting in his living room in air conditioning, reading books, eating ice cream, and napping all day. He wanted more. He wanted to be a part of the same court that all his volleyball teammates played on and realized he must go back to training. This realization came at a huge cost though. The guilt of running away. Flashback to some of the older games that Karasuno played. It might seem like a tangent, but trust me, whenever someone lost, they had a line that said something like this: "If I had practiced my receives a bit more, we could have had a better chance at winning." Now think about that exact statement from Ennoshita's point of view. At least in the case of the other teams, they showed up to practice diligently and may have missed out on that little bit of oomph in their training. Even through missing that oomph, it is clear how guilty they feel for not taking practice as seriously as they maybe could have. For someone like Ennoshita, the same situation might look similar, but it's actually a lot worse. Not only did he not give it his all during the training, he ran away. He willingly chose to abandon the option of practicing for an extended period of time. The guilt from this situation is insane. Even if he did come back to the court and continued practicing with Karasuno, he willingly put himself miles behind everyone else on his team and significantly far behind the version of himself that actually never ran away. Whether that's actually truly the case or not almost doesn't matter. Ennoshita's actual abilities on court in volleyball don't matter. In Ennoshita's mind, he's already someone that ran away from a challenge, and therefore he didn't have the right to stand on the same court as everyone else who had practiced through the tough times. This is Ennoshita's biggest challenge in this arc, forgiving himself for running away and having faith in himself. Okay, now that this is established, we can talk about the actual match against Wakanan, where Ennoshita has to take up the responsibility as Karasuno's substitute captain and help them win. I mentioned earlier that Ennoshita definitely had what it takes to be a captain from his personality, and I think this is best shown during the small snippets in the match where he 1. Helps Tanaka recover from hurting Daichi right at the start, 2. Calms Yamaguchi down before the pinch serve, covers for Yamaguchi after the pinch serve, and 3. Stops Hinata from getting flustered right at the end of the set. Also followed by the most important moment during the entire match for him, when he decides that he will be the one covering the ball when the opponent ace goes for a wipe. The fact that he called for a play to be made and then delivered on the play entirely by himself, leading to Karasuno getting a point from a situation where they would normally have lost that point, is absolutely huge. I'm borrowing the words of Coach Ukai here, but Ennoshita thought that he was just a substitute and he cannot completely blend in with the vibe of the court. But after that play, called by him and executed well enough to prove to his teammates that he could be trusted with calling plays, is absolutely huge. But what's even bigger is the faith that you gain in your own self. If you make a play that benefits your team with your own agency, it proves to you that you truly deserve to stand on the same court as everyone else. That even if you ran away once, you have what it takes to come back to volleyball and perform. Yes, you ran away. Yes, it was cowardly, but it doesn't matter if you come back and prove your worth, not only to your team, but to your own self. In terms of depth and length, I think this was a pretty straightforward arc and it lasted about an episode and a half to maybe 2 episodes. But I think the true genius of this arc was the fact that Ennoshita was a character we had never seen in the story until now, outside of maybe 1 or 2 small incidents. We got introduced to a side character, and this side character gets his own beautiful little redemption arc that means nothing really in the grand scheme of Haikyuu, but damn did it feel great to watch. It came at a time when Karasuno had their backs against the wall in a do or die situation, where you had to wonder, even for the smallest second, if this is where Karasuno's journey would end for the second time. The character of Ennoshita is a ray of hope for everyone watching. Not only story-wise, but also character-wise. Story-wise, he was able to provide Karasuno the foundation they were missing with the absence of their captain and led Karasuno to the victory in the match against Wakanan. But it was definitely more than that. Character-wise, I think Ennoshita's story is an inspiration to everyone working through a challenge in their life. All of you that are thinking of quitting. Not only does this arc show the pain of quitting, it also doesn't glorify the process of returning to something that you have quit. It's meant to feel bad, and that is the exact message the author wanted to send here. Quitting is a difficult choice to make, and coming back to something after quitting is indeed a very difficult process, but it is not impossible. It also openly admits that for some people, quitting is the correct option and arguably it could improve their life. I think the message here is to think it through, to understand what your priorities in life are. Quitting something on a whim or from frustration might sound easy, but in reality, as proven by Ennoshita's arc, it is actually very, very costly. I'm sorry if this became a little too heavy near the end, but in reality, I think Ennoshita's journey is truly beautiful. Although it doesn't matter in the entire scope of Haikyuu, he was part of the best Haikyuu arc that nobody cared about. I have been Letaro, again I don't know how to say my name, thank